Turn down the mic a little bit, see if we can drown out the sound of Joel Trusty here. Alright, let's begin. Alright. Chapter 2. The Skulkrin. As darkness seeped through the trees, the Skulkrin shivered and grunted, still asleep in a nest of leaves and bracken. He cowered as he lay there, and his tiny hands quivered in supplication. "Oh, Great One," he whimpered, "Skulkrin would not fail you. Skulkrin is your faithful servant." The Skulkrin's long tongue lolled out to lick an absent hand. A cold, crackling voice rang out in the creature's dream. "Wretch! I would not trust you further than I could kick you." As if to demonstrate, Doomdark aimed the toe of his boot at the Skulkrin's thin belly. Skulkrin, half expecting such a response, darted away, but not swiftly enough. The blow caught him on the backside and sent him sprawling. Doomdark sneered. "Fool!" The Skulkrin picked himself up and dusted the splinters of ice from his ragged tunic. "You are too kind to Skulkrin, Great One. Skulkrin loves to be kicked around, oh surely. Skulkrin loves a sore backside, oh surely too kind," said the Skulkrin, adding under his breath, "Great mountain of flatulence." In a withering voice, Doomdark whispered, "Go." Skulkrin cringed as the Witch King's frozen breath rolled towards him, trailing a glittering cloud of ice as it clawed through the air. Skulkrin shrieked, shook, and woke. "Must find Luxor," he muttered to himself. "Surely must." Shaking himself as he stood up, the Skulkrin pawed at all his bodily parts to make sure they were still there, then scuttled off into the murk of the forest. Skulkrin moved swiftly, skipping over the crisp snow where the ground was even, dropping to all fours when fallen trees and stray boulders made a mountain range of the forest floor. For a few moments, he imagined he was a young Skulkrin again, dancing alone and carefree through the white wilderness. But presently he remembered, stopped, and sniffed. The simmering breath of the trees streamed into his twitching nostrils, but then a different warmth mingled with the resinous gloom of the forest. Man warmth. The Skulkrin shivered and sniffed again. There was another warmth there too. Boy warmth. His long tongue slavered out over his lips. A bite to eat would not go amiss. Skulkrin found his quarry in a clearing. There was no fire, else he would have found them sooner, and the man and the boy were huddled under a makeshift roof of branches and ferns. Quiet as a snowfall, Skulkrin crept into the bivouac. He pawed around in his tunic, and from the grubby depths he tugged out a small patch of matted fur. From it, the Skulkrin poured a heap of glowing white dust into his palm, which he quickly sprinkled over the sleeping faces of the humans. Even so, Skulkrin felt a frosty numbness gripping his fingers like a glove of ice. He muttered to himself, "Rotten Doomdark magic. Could make magic that don't hurt Skulkrin. Surely could." Then he shook his clawed little hand a little until he felt the blood trickle back, whimpering softly all the while. It seemed that stars had fallen from the sky to settle on the faces of the man and the boy. One by one, each glinting speck faded and disappeared as the sleep frost melted into their skin. Skulkrin waited until the last glimmer had died, then edged closer to the man. He sniffed at the man's tepid breath, his nose wrinkling and twitching as he tested its warmth and texture. Then he giggled in delight. "The great Lord Luxor. Now he won't kick Skulkrin on his backside, surely not." The Skulkrin knelt down. brought his mouth close to Luxor's ear, and in a mellow, soothing voice that seemed absurd from such a creature, he whispered, "Lord Luxor, great Lord Luxor, brave Lord Luxor, why have you come to the Forest of Shadows? Tell me, oh tell me where you are bound." Luxor stirred, eyes still closed. His arm rose mechanically, and his hand waved towards the knife in his belt. The Skulkrin scurried away with a squeak of terror, but Luxor's arm fell back, lifeless, to the ground. Skulkrin crouched in the darkness a full minute before he found courage enough to crawl back to Luxor. In truth, even this was simply the courage of necessity, his fear of Doomdark reasserting itself over his fear of the warlord. "Great Lord Luxor," sang the Skulkrin, "tell me where you are bound." This time, Luxor did not stir. He spoke in a faint, weary murmur. "I have been called by the wise," he slurred. "I have been called to their council at the Tower of the Moon, summoned." "But why? Tell me why," crooned the Skulkrin. "The solstice. Doomdark grows stronger yet. We must act. I know no more. The wise keep their own counsel." Skulkrin guessed this was the truth. Though a great warlord of the free, even Luxor would not be privy to the secrets of the wise. Bah! Great warlump! Might as well tell Doomdark the sun will rise tomorrow. Sore backside for Skulkrin. Then a thought struck the Skulkrin, and he grinned a jagged, twinkling grin. "O great lord, how do you think of the Witch King? Is he not greater than you?" hissed the Skulkrin. "Doomdark is hagspawn, a foul pestilence, a piece of scum, adrift on the fair waters of midnight. If he fought like a man, I would slay him in 2 breaths." The Skulkrin convulsed in tremendous giggles. Though he shivered at the thought of him, there was nothing more deliciously exciting than to hear him insulted. Suddenly, a cold breath trickled down Skulkrin's neck. His laughter stopped just as suddenly, and he clenched his hands together. "I wasn't laughing, oh great one. Oh no, surely I wasn't." Only silence and the gentle whisper of the trees was the reply. The Skulkrin sighed, and smiled crookedly. "Silly Skulkrin. Can't hurt you here, can he?" He swiveled round and turned to the sleeping boy. He snuffled at his face, and shoulders, and chest. "Fresh, and so warm," he declared. Morkan was lying on his side towards the Skulkrin, with a bare forearm hooked in front of his face. Skulkrin tugged another pouch from his tunic, and poured some more white powder into his palm. Sparingly, he sprinkled it over the boy's arm. No melting glow could be seen, for this time the white dust was more mundane. It was salt. Skulkrin opened his jaws wide and ducked eagerly forward. Just as the Skulkrin's fangs were about to sink into the morsel prepared, Morkan opened his eyes. Had the Skulkrin been turned to ice, an event not unfamiliar to Doomdark's servants, he could not have stopped in mid-bite more swiftly. For a moment, Skulkrin was at a loss and could only stare in amazement and terror. Then, a half-moment more, and his gaping bite had suddenly transformed itself into a broad grin. "Hello, young sir," the Skulkrin gulped. He gulped again as the knife point pressed sharply against his throat. "If you so much as twitch, little furry one, you'll twitch no more. What's your business with us?" said Morkan. "Nothing, young sir, nothing, surely. Skulkrin only seeks warmth and shelter. Gets fine hospitality, too. Knife at his throat, questioned like a criminal. Fine hospitality, surely." "Oh," said Morkan, mockingly. "Hospitality in your country stretches to becoming a meal for your guests. Fine hospitality, that." Oh no, young sir, oh no! Skulkrin is a good Skulkrin. He would not eat such a fine, strong, handsome, kind boy. The salt, then, is for good luck, I suppose. So clever, young lord, surely, yes. Good luck, of course. Ought to make your end now, but I fear you have worked some doomish spell on my lord. He sleeps strangely and has not stirred. Wake him, and I'll spare you your skin and bones. Only the light of the day can do that, young sir, whimpered the Skulkrin. You are lying, poor thing. You're lying, fur thing, said the boy angrily. He prodded the creature's throat with the knife point. Skulkrin winced. It's dangerous, young sir, dangerous, surely. More so if you don't, said Morkan, prodding more firmly with the knife. I think, perhaps, I should try to wake him, sir, squeaked the Skulkrin. With his knife hand, Morkan waved the creature towards Luxor. Skulkrin took yet another pouch from his tunic, and waved it to and fro under Luxor's nose. Languidly, the man opened his eyes. For a moment, Morkan's gaze left the Skulkrin. The Skulkrin bitched savagely at the boy, and instinctively, the boy lashed out with the Skulkrin clamped on his hand. The creature crashed through the thin branches that sheltered them. His jaws dropped open at the shock of impact, but his flight continued, out into the forest towards a particularly prickly clump of brambles. He scrambled to his feet and raced off northwards, plucking out thorns as he ran. Armor, he muttered glumly. That's what Skulkrin needs. Armor on his bum. Rotten doomdark magic. Don't even work on food. Fah! Morkan was gently shaking Luxor. Luxor, my lord, are you hurt? At peace, Morkan. I was only dreaming. What's amiss? A furry creature was about to make a meal of your arm before I stopped it at knife point. A furry creature was about to make a meal of my arm before I stopped it at knife point. It had put you under a spell, my lord. Did it speak? Yes, it said it was a Skulkrin. A Skulkrin. Then Doomdark senses something. The Skulkrin rarely comes so far south. Did you tell it anything, Morkan? No, my lord, but it was speaking to you when I woke. Luxor sat up and peered at the folds of the cloak where his head had lain. A few specks of glimmering dust lingered on the dark fabric. Sleep Frost! Morkan, did you kill it? Morkan shook his head. No, my lord, it escaped. Come, we must ride. You did well enough to wake, though how you did that after Sleep Frost I cannot fathom. Luxor grasped Morkan's hand firmly. Morkan winced, and Luxor felt the warm slick of blood. You're hurt, Morkan. That's only a bite, my lord. The Skulkrin bite turns foul in ours, said the man. Then must I cut it open and suck out the poison? Luxor laughed. You listen to too many ale tales, Morkan. No, a few leaves of sweet flame will clean the wound. We will ride now, and gather some on the way, but we must find the Skulkrin. If we do not, I fear Doomdark may get untimely warning that the wise are awake. Oof. And that ends chapter 2. That was a little rough. Voices. I always struggle with voices. I don't have a very high vocal range myself. I mean, I can do some things, but memorizing, but well, yeah, you know. It's all work in progress. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this live reading, and I'll see you in the next one, where we meet Corleth the Fae. Have a good night, guys, and thanks again.